Welcome to the Deep Dive, and today we're going to talk about what's a pretty compelling story, actually. It's about Eileen Wicks and her husband, Trevor's relentless fight to bring her home.
Yeah.
They were living this peaceful retirement in British Columbia, really active in their community. They love making music, really enjoying the fruits of their labor.
Yeah, a classic retirement story.
But then in January 2022, everything changed.
Wow, so what happened?
Well, it's a pretty jarring transition. Trevor paints this really vivid picture of a rainy January morning. They're in their kitchen, and suddenly their home is just swarming with 4 police officers and 2 social workers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, Trevor is arrested, and Eileen is taken away.
Arrested? What?
Yeah, it's wild. And get this, she hasn't been back home since.
That's unbelievable. So this happened over a year ago?
Yeah, over a year ago.
So what was the reason for all this?
Well, that's where the real mystery begins. You see, Trevor insists that he and Eileen had prepared for the future. They had an advance directive in place outlining Eileen's wishes for her care if she was ever unable to make decisions for herself.
Right. Advance directives are so important, especially as we age. They give us a voice even when we might not be able to speak for ourselves.
Exactly. And to hear that Eileen's wishes were potentially disregarded is deeply concerning.
I can only imagine.
And this is what fuels Trevor's fight. He claims Eileen's apprehension and subsequent confinement completely violate that advance directive, and he's been battling relentlessly to get her released, navigating legal hurdles and launching public awareness campaigns. It's really incredible.
Wow, he sounds like a really dedicated husband.
He's created YouTube videos, built a website, and even spent over $156,000 of his own money trying to bring Eileen home.
Wow, that's a huge amount of money.
It is. And to add insult to injury, he was told it could cost another $200,000 to secure her release.
That's outrageous.
It's heartbreaking. And then there are Trevor's accusations against Island Health, the health authority responsible for Eileen's care.
Right.
He uses some really strong language talking about the criminalization of seniors, alleging financial exploitation, disregard for patient rights, and even cover-ups.
Those are some pretty serious accusations.
They are. And, when he talks about the criminalization of seniors, he's expressing this feeling that the system treats aging individuals like burdens to be managed rather than respecting their autonomy and rights. And the fact that he was quoted such a high figure for Eileen's release raises questions about the financial motivations behind these decisions.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
So while Trevor's fighting this battle on the outside, Eileen's confined within the system. And her experience as described by Trevor is truly unsettling. She was first held at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital, which Trevor describes as noisy, dirty, with terrible food.
Oh no, that's awful.
It is. And these conditions really took a toll on Eileen. She became so despondent that she developed sores and had to be put on multiple rounds of antibiotics.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad. It really makes you question the quality of care she was receiving.
Right, it's awful. Then she was moved to Eagle Park, an institution that was initially presented as a positive change.
Okay.
But according to Trevor, the promises of better care weren't fulfilled. Eileen had limited social contact. There were allegations of neglect and even security issues.
Security issues? Like what kind?
Well, Trevor recounts this one specific incident that is particularly alarming. He mentions a male resident being found in Eileen's room, and even instances of her being assaulted by other residents.
Wow, that's terrifying. That paints a really disturbing picture of a lack of safety and security within the facility.
It does. And you mentioned earlier that Eileen had an advance directive. Do you think the authorities were aware of it? And if so, why do you think they disregarded it?
That's the million-dollar question. If they were aware of her wishes and still proceeded with her apprehension and confinement, it raises serious concerns about their respect for patient autonomy and legal directives. It would suggest that other factors, potentially including financial incentives, were given priority over Eileen's clearly stated wishes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Trevor claims. He alleges that Island Health benefits financially from keeping seniors in care. He points to the fact that they were told it could cost an additional $200,000 to secure Eileen's release, even though she had an advance directive in place.
That's really disturbing, and it raises a larger issue. The potential for conflict of interest within healthcare systems, are the best interests of patients always the primary driving force? Or are there other motivations, perhaps even unconscious biases, that influence decisions about care?
That's a really important question, and one that we need to be asking more often.
Absolutely. It's unsettling to think that this case isn't isolated. Trevor's efforts have connected him with other families facing similar situations, and a troubling pattern emerges.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he hears accounts of over-medication isolation and a lack of transparency from staff within these facilities.
So it's like these whispers start to turn into a chorus.
Exactly. All these individual stories pointing to potential systemic issues.
Right. Trevor mentions that he was told to get a lawyer immediately, but after spending a fortune, they've contacted over 50 lawyers, and most won't touch a case against the government.
Wow, so they're up against a wall.
Yeah, it's like they're up against this impenetrable wall.
That's incredibly disheartening. Access to legal representation is crucial in ensuring a fair process, especially when individuals are facing powerful entities like a government health authority to be effectively shut out of the legal system. Like, that raises serious concerns about power imbalances and potential injustices.
It does, and Trevor describes the whole legal process as a steamroller, crushing anyone who dares to question the system. And this feeling of helplessness, of being trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare, really comes through in his account.
Yeah, it's a powerful image, that steamroller.
Yeah.
It really conveys this sense of an unstoppable force, something that individuals feel powerless to fight against. And that can be incredibly demoralizing, especially for someone like Trevor, who's desperately trying to advocate for his wife's well-being.
It is. And this sense of powerlessness seems to extend beyond the legal realm. Trevor talks about a specific incident that was meant to be a joyous occasion, their 62nd wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
They had planned a small gathering with friends, and Eileen was supposed to be escorted from Eagle Park to join them for a short visit.
That's nice.
Yeah, they even wanted to renew their vows. Such a beautiful sentiment after all these years.
That's lovely. It seems like such a simple request, a chance for Eileen to connect with her loved ones and experience a moment of happiness amidst this ordeal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Island Health denied the request.
They did.
Eileen wasn't allowed to attend.
Oh.
And to make matters worse, friends tried to visit her in the parking lot, but they were met with hostility from staff. What should have been a celebration of their love turned into another heartbreaking reminder of Eileen's confinement.
That's just cruel. It goes beyond just denying a request. It feels like a deliberate attempt to sever Eileen's social connections to further isolate her from the life she knew.
It's awful, and this case really highlights the emotional toll on families and caregivers, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
They're navigating this complex system, advocating for their loved ones, and facing constant pushback. The emotional burden must be immense.
It is. Trevor talks about the stress, the sleepless nights, the constant worry for Eileen's well-being. It's clearly taking a toll on his own health, but he continues to fight.
It's remarkable. It makes you wonder what would happen to those who don't have someone like Trevor fighting for them, someone with the resources and the will to challenge the system.
It's a scary thought, and it speaks to the potential vulnerabilities of seniors who might not have a strong advocate in their corner. They might be more susceptible to being overlooked, their rights potentially infringed upon without anyone raising a voice on their behalf.
It's a sobering thought. You mentioned earlier that Trevor connects Eileen's situation to potential misuse of legal mechanisms like the Mental Health Act and the Adult Guardianship Act. Can you explain what those acts are and how they might be relevant here?
Sure. So the Mental Health Act is designed to protect individuals experiencing mental health crises, providing a framework for involuntary treatment when someone is deemed a danger to themselves or others. The Adult Guardianship Act, on the other hand, is meant to safeguard the well-being and legal rights of adults who may be incapable of managing their own affairs due to cognitive impairments or other vulnerabilities.
So how do these acts, which are intended to protect people, become tools for potentially violating their rights?
Well, that's the crux of Trevor's argument. He claims the Mental Health Act can be misused to detain seniors without proper justification, as he alleges happened to Eileen. And he highlights a concerning statistic that health authorities only completed the required paperwork in 28% of apprehension cases.
Wow, so less than a third.
Yeah, if true, this suggests a disregard for legal safeguards and raises questions about whether these apprehensions are truly warranted.
And then the Adult Guardianship Act.
Right.
How does that tie into this situation?
Trevor argues that this act can be used to strip seniors of their decision-making power, essentially handing control of their lives over to others, often without their full understanding or consent. He believes this opens the door for financial exploitation and other abuses as seniors may become more vulnerable to manipulation or coercion.
Trevor also points out a disturbing trend, that in a province struggling with a drug crisis, seniors in long-term care are often heavily medicated. He argues that drugging seniors in their last phases of life is not health care.
That's a powerful statement. It challenges us to think about the role of medication in senior care. While medication can be necessary for managing certain conditions, over-medication can have serious side effects, particularly for older adults. It can lead to lethargy, confusion, and even accelerate cognitive decline.
So where do we draw the line? How do we ensure that medication is used appropriately to improve quality of life, rather than as a means of control or sedation?
That's a complex question, and it requires a nuanced approach. There needs to be a balance between medical treatment and respecting the individual's wishes and quality of life. Open communication between doctors, caregivers, families, and the seniors themselves is crucial to ensure that medication decisions are made with the individual's best interests at heart.
Trevor also highlights the financial aspect of senior care, mentioning that BC spends over $1.7 billion each year on residential care and assisted living. But he argues that a large portion of that funding goes to high salary earners, not the frontline workers who provide direct care. He believes this imbalance needs to be addressed.
That's a valid concern. It raises questions about resource allocation within the healthcare system. If the goal is to provide high-quality care for seniors, are the funds being used effectively? Are the individuals who are directly responsible for the well-being of seniors, the nurses, aides, and support staff, adequately compensated and supported?
It's a really good point, and it connects to a broader conversation about the value we place on care work, which is often undervalued and underpaid despite its critical importance.
Exactly. Trevor advocates for a shift in priorities where frontline workers are recognized and supported as the key players in senior care. He believes they should have a greater voice in shaping policies and practices given their firsthand experience with the challenges and complexities of caring for older adults.
That makes sense. They're the ones on the ground interacting with seniors every day. Their insights could be invaluable in improving the system.
Absolutely. Their perspectives can help ensure that policies are grounded in the realities of caregiving and that they address the needs of both seniors and those who care for them.
Trevor and Eileen's story is incredibly moving. Their plea for compassion and justice really resonates. They just want to return to their life together, to their music, their home, their community. It's a fundamental human desire to live with dignity and autonomy.
Their story highlights the devastating impact that isolation and confinement can have on individuals. It's a powerful reminder that seniors deserve to live their final years with respect, surrounded by loved ones, and engaged in meaningful activities.
This case also raises some broader questions about how we as a society approach aging and care for our elderly population. Are we prioritizing their well-being? Are we adequately protecting their rights? Are we creating a system that values and supports both seniors and those who care for them? These are questions that we all need to grapple with. It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this one. Eileen and Trevor's story has touched on so many complex issues.
It really has. It's about individual rights, it's about systemic challenges, and ultimately it's about how we as a society value and care for our aging population. And I think one of the key tensions here is this whole concept of aging in place.
Yeah, you're right. Trevor talks about aging in place, which generally it's seen as a positive approach, this idea that seniors are better supported at home rather than in institutions.
Exactly. The idea is to empower seniors to live independently and comfortably in their own homes for as long as possible with the right support services. It's about choice, it's about autonomy, and maintaining that sense of familiarity and connection to one's community.
Question and answer. And Trevor also highlights the importance of happiness and social connection for seniors, especially those with cognitive impairments. He believes that institutionalization often deprives seniors of these vital elements, leading to further decline.
And he's right. Numerous studies have shown the positive impact of social engagement and meaningful activities on cognitive function and overall well-being in seniors. Depriving individuals of these opportunities can have detrimental effects on their physical and mental health. It's about recognizing that seniors, regardless of their cognitive abilities, are still human beings with emotional and social needs.
This whole story has been an emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. It's heartbreaking to see what Eileen and Trevor are going through, but it's also inspiring to witness Trevor's unwavering dedication to bringing his wife home.
His determination is remarkable. He's become a voice not only for Eileen, but for other families facing similar challenges. He's shining a light on a system that can be opaque and often difficult to navigate, especially for those who are vulnerable or lack resources.
So what can we learn from Eileen and Trevor's experience? What steps can we take to ensure that seniors are treated with dignity and respect, that their rights are protected, and that they receive the care they deserve?
That's the big question. Trevor offers some concrete suggestions. He urges people to contact their elected officials to raise awareness about these issues and to support organizations that advocate for seniors' rights. He believes that systemic change starts with individual action and that collective pressure can lead to meaningful reforms.
He also emphasizes the importance of planning ahead. Having open conversations with loved ones about end-of-life care and preparing legal documents like advance directives can help ensure that individual wishes are respected, even if someone becomes unable to communicate those wishes themselves.
It's great advice. These conversations can be difficult, but they're crucial to ensuring that our voices are heard and our wishes are honored, even in challenging circumstances.
Well, this deep dive has been eye-opening for me, and I suspect it has been for our listeners as well. Eileen and Trevor's story is a reminder that we can't take individual rights for granted and that we need to be vigilant in protecting the most vulnerable members of our society.
It's a call to action for all of us to think critically about the systems that impact our lives and to advocate for change when those systems fail to uphold fundamental values of compassion, justice, and respect.
If you'd like to learn more about Eileen and Trevor's story, we'll include a link to their website in the show notes. You can find videos, articles, and ways to get involved. We encourage you to explore their story further and to consider what you can do within your own communities to advocate for ethical and compassionate senior care.
As we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with this question. How can we as individuals and as a society ensure that our aging population is treated with the dignity, respect, and compassion they deserve? The answer to that question is crucial for building a future where aging is not feared, but embraced as a natural part of life, a stage deserving of our care, support, and unwavering advocacy.